listeners to BizBlend podcast, where we go beyond business talk and dive into the mindset, resilience, and human stories that shape how we work and live. I'm your host, Sana, and listeners, today we are tackling something every entrepreneur faces, but few master the art of navigating uncertainty with clarity and courage. And listeners, my guest is Hussein Hallak. He is a Syrian-born Canadian troublemaker, recovering engineer, hopeless romantic, and lifelong learner who has spent over 2 decades helping people make sense of chaos. He's worked with immigrant founders, upcoming artists, and anyone willing to reinvent themselves when life refuses to follow the rules. And his latest book, The Dark Art of Life Mastery, is not about sugarcoating. It is about reclaiming agency and building something real when easy answers just don't cut it. So, if you have ever felt like that you are stuck between your ambition, your passion, and your mental wellness, or if you have wondered how to stay grounded when everything's uncertain, this conversation is for you. So, Hussein, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you very much for having me. That's such a great introduction. Thank you. I'm loving it. I'm gonna use it.
Thank you, Hussein. But it's definitely uh, uh, quite a lot of quite a journey in there, Hussein, and I think this definitely it is such an important part of your identity that I absolutely appreciate. And specifically, you have built a career in what you call making sense of chaos. Now, generally, our brains are naturally wired that it doesn't like much of changes. It fears chaos, and that's probably why we call it as a fight or flight mode we get into. Um, and now, considering so many uncertainties out there, I mean, yes, I'll be very honest. It may sound a bit of, cryptic, but we are in uncertain times. Economic crashes. We just had a pandemic. The global economy is a bit unstable. Um, there can be a failed product. Companies are laying off. Companies are closing, or there could be a personal crisis. So, um, I would love to know what's your first step toward clarity?
That's a great question. I would say it's important to open your eyes. It may sound extremely easy, but
Mm.
unfortunately, all of us live in our own heads. We live not in the world as it is, we live in the world as we perceive it. So it's our thoughts about the world that dominate our thinking, not the world itself. So it may sound easy. It is simple, but it's definitely requires constant practice to
Yeah.
open our eyes and really look at the world as it is. And this may seem like good examples of that when I work with entrepreneurs in particular. An
Mhm.
entrepreneur is someone who has most entrepreneurs have a grand vision of something they want to build, something they want to accomplish. And a lot of time that vision dominates their being. That's all they can think
Mm.
about. And it's extremely important because it drives them forward. However,
Yeah.
your vision of a successful company doesn't make the company successful. You have to look at reality. And in reality, you may be just at the first few steps. You're talking to customers. Some entrepreneurs listen to what they want to hear instead of listening to what actually people are telling them. So it's kind of like looking for the answers that we like rather than examining the answers as they are. So it may sound as something that is as simple and easy as opening our eyes and really start training ourselves to interact with the world as is and distinguishing between our thoughts about the world and the world as is. That is the first step to clarity.
Hmm. Hmm. And does it mean that we can have all the answers? I mean, how do you explain to someone that clarity can still exist without certainty? Because, as you mentioned about, you know, uh, I would, as an entrepreneur, I would be more, I would love to hear what I like, not what the actual reality is. That's kind
Exactly.
of echo chamber that we kind of create. And there is such a, to me, I'll be very honest, because initially I used to think like this, that, I always used to get demotivated when somebody criticized me, constructively criticized me, or I was not much of a likable person in terms of how would I react to if somebody is definitely trying to point out my mistake. But then gradually with the, time, with experiences, with maturity, I have adopted this practice to, if I'm wrong, then yes, I'm wrong. I have made a mistake and I will rectify. I will learn from those mistakes. I will rectify. But then it's such a dangerous position to be in your echo chamber. So how would you explain to someone that clarity can still exist without certainty?
Clarity definitely doesn't mean certainty, because certainty means knowing what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. So knowledge gives you certainty. For example, I know the house that I'm in right now is built well. I have, let's say, the information needed for us to join this meeting. That gives certainty. Information, knowledge about something gives a level of
Mhm.
certainty. There is no absolute certainty. There is a level of certainty. For example, I don't know that the next minute an earthquake is going to happen and the house that I'm in that looks very solid can completely collapse. I don't know that, but I know enough certainty for me to sit in this house and be certain that I'm, you know, almost as safe as I can be, considering that I don't control the future. So, but if I start living in my own thoughts about, I am, nothing bad is ever going to happen, then that lie that I say, and sometimes it's important or comfortable to live in our own lies, but and that's okay if that's your choice. But as long as it's a conscious choice, I choose sometimes to say, nothing bad's going to happen if I don't deliver this task on time.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
uh, Now, do I can I be certain? No, I don't know how the client's going to react, but I can tell myself this so I can comfortably, let's say, relax, let's say for half an hour. I can say to myself, if I delay for half an hour, nothing's bad's going to happen. I can take a few steps forward and say, well, I don't control how the client sees it. This is where clarity starts to show up, because the first is my own thought about the thing. I'm going to delay it for half an hour. Nothing bad's going to happen. That's my own thought. I know I'm going to
Mhm.
delay it for half an hour because it's a choice, but my choice to believe nothing's going to happen is my own choice. So instead of doing that, I can move one step towards clarity and I can say, well, I don't control how the client's going to react or how the other party that is waiting for this is going to react. So why don't I take it? I remove that certainty and say, I don't know how they're going to react. I want to delay it for half an hour, and it's important for my health or my relaxation, or it's just a choice that I want. So let me take another choice and move closer to the certainty of nothing bad's going to happen. So I send a message and I say, hey, I'm going to be late for half an hour, uh, just letting you know so that you can arrange. And now that I've created knowledge for the other person, there is some sort of level of certainty. So the difference between the first step and the first condition and the second condition is I didn't drown in my own delusion or my own thoughts about the matter. I actually looked at the matter with clear eyes, and I knew what I can control and what I can't control, and then I took some steps towards making sure that that exists. It may seem like a simple example, but if you start training yourself, and that's my whole conversations with entrepreneurs, is what we concern ourselves with is big things, finding the love of our lives, finding purpose, and all of these things that are big. And what happens is, and those are important things, don't get me wrong, but what happens is when we're engaged in big things, they're always happening over a long period of time that gives us the excuse to not take any meaningful steps. But if we
Mm.
engage in simple, radical actions every day, like I don't, I know I need to find my purpose for my life, but that's over the span of 20 years. But how about I make up, what I want today to be like, what I want the next hour to be like, and I practice what is it to make choices that impact the next hour or the next day or the next week. And when I start doing that consistently, I become more comfortable in how I think. I learn more about myself. I learn how I interact and how I exist in the world, what matters to me, what doesn't. And the more knowledge I have about myself, I can create certainty in my life because I know how I'm going to react. For example, if I know that, as you said, if feedback hurts me, then I start, asking for feedback in different ways. Instead of saying, "What do you think?" I ask, "Hey, I'm looking for feedback in the following way. Can you give me feedback like this? And can you give it to me written, for example?" So I start asking for what works for me. And I start learning that about myself rather than going down the path that everybody does. And then, get to learn about myself by putting myself in situations that I can't envy, or I don't want. So this is how, by small little actions every day, you can actually create choice in your life. You can learn more about yourself, and you can get closer to certainty as much as that is possible. There will be always uncertainty in life. That is life in a nutshell.
Absolutely, absolutely. We it's nothing of a patronizing for our listeners, but what I've learned is we should be embracing the thought of dealing with contingencies, and the outputs may not be favorable. We may not have the perfect plan, but then let's have a plan A, then plan B or plan C. Um, and you know, we have seen such a global level event happening. I mean, it's such a uh, you know, it was a catastrophic event, but at the same time, it also brought so, I mean, like elephantine amount level of transformation in so many people's lives. People have actually understood the value of work life harmony, or they have understood value of um, holistic wellness, of having their loved ones with them, trying to understand their purpose. I think uh, it's kind of a opportunity in adversity.
Yes. There will always be, I mean, events in the world that we have zero control over. Right now, climate change is kind of,
Yes.
ripping through our planet, and it will have, unfortunately, catastrophic impact over several years. We have the rise of different, fascist ideologies around the world, which are kind of impacting how we do business, how we do life, and how we think about the world. What matters is what you can, let's say, what your choices, because is you can't control these kind of things. Things are going to happen, and things are always going to happen that you have zero control over. What you can think about is who do you choose to become when you're faced with this. For example, the pandemic happened, and you can choose to become someone who's isolated, afraid, and there is nothing wrong, by the way. Like those are your choices, as long as your choices. I am a big advocate of, as long as the choices that you're making are yours, and they impact your world. However you want them to impact your world, and they don't impact other people's world in a negative sense, in that it takes away something from them, then you're fine to experiment and explore those choices and what they mean to you, because that's how we learn. But if who you choose to become really is is needs to mean something for you, because a lot of times we're trained and we are let's say, nurtured into becoming or acting in ways that adhere to social norms, adhere to cultural kind of background, adhere to how we want the world to perceive us. But I would argue that the most important thing is how we perceive ourselves. who are you, and who do you want to become in your own eyes? These are the key questions we don't really ask. We are so busy trying to appeal to a world that doesn't care about us and doesn't even recognize we exist. And we have to work sometimes years, to become recognized by a certain group or a wider group. And we consider that success. And that can come as number of followers, how much money you have, where do you live, all the kind of things that are social proof to prove to others that here I am successful, or I have, made it, and I have achieved something. So recognize me for it, even showing up on podcasts and stuff like that. But the key question that we forget, and sometimes we take a long, long time. You see someone, let's say, reaching 40s or 50s, or sometimes at the deathbed, considering what have I really lived the life I want? Have I really lived the life of my choosing? And most of the time, people haven't, because we're influenced by how other people measure success, how the collective measure success. So that is, I would argue that it's the most important question that you need to ask. What matters really to you? What is the one thing that matters most than anything else to you? And if you don't know it, that's the thing that you need to get busy discovering what that means.
Totally, totally. And here also a few of listeners would say, but I mean, yeah, of course, um, uh, we success isn't something that can be externally or should be externally validated, or someone else's, you know, uh, metrics or expectations. But then, uh, you know, can meaning and money truly coexist?
100%. Money is not, there's nothing wrong with money and, having toys and stuff like that around, and the stuff that you care about. Nobody can tell you what you should care about. That's what makes us so special and individual. Um, and that's fine as long as it is your choice, as long as you didn't fall into, the path of that's what others value and therefore I should value. A lot of times, that's, in my opinion, the main reason why we see people that are lost, people that are supposed to have everything, and they behave as if they have nothing. I'll give you an example. I mean, we can use a very, very prominent example. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. Has
Mhm.
has I would say 7 years ago or so, or maybe even before the pandemic, he was seen as the real life Iron Man. He was seen as someone who birthed these incredible companies, even though he didn't. But he was hailed as the smartest person among us, the person we look up to. And look where he
Yep.
is right now. He has more money, he has more influence, but he doesn't have the approval. And he seeks like someone. I mean, even I don't ask for approval the way he asked for approval. Not that I'm the measurement or nothing, but this is someone that doesn't need anything from the world, but he acts like he needs everything from the world. He wants validation from the people around him. He wants people to accept him. He's like, that is honestly a pathetic way to live. Um, because if I had any like nearly the amount of, let's say, 1% of the money he has, I would never even search for money anymore or to look for. He has 200 million followers. What more do you need to prove that you have influence in the world? But that shows you that it's not enough. I mean, if Elon Musk is like that and he has all of the validation, he checked every single box, richest man,
Yeah.
recognition, the most influential companies. He literally got to elect or helped to elect the strongest man in the world and worked right beside him and completely had influence over any institution in the strongest country in the world. He can go anywhere and people would welcome him like a president. So he achieved every checkbox of what we consider a successful person to be, but he doesn't act like a successful person. And that makes you wonder, should I pursue these things just for the sake of being them, if at the end of the day I can achieve all of them and still not feel fulfilled? So I encourage people to reverse that. Ask yourself what fulfills you and make sure you're aware of it, and pursue whatever path you want as long as it is your choice. However, as long as you're aware, you're coming from awareness and you know, hey, I know money is not going to fulfill me, but for now, I'm choosing to pursue money because I need to pay rent. I like to have to be financially secure. I like to retire early. Whatever is your reason that you pursue it, as long as you know you don't mix them and say, I'm pursuing money because if I get enough money, then people will value me. Then I'll be someone who has value in the world. Then I'll be satisfied because that's a false equation. You're never going to do that. For to be to you comfortable with yourself, you need to start there, and that's a personal conversation. You don't get validation, you don't get self fulfillment from others. No matter how many people love you, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to feel love. No matter
Yeah.
how many people respect you, if you don't respect yourself, the respect is not going to matter. No matter how much money you have in the world, if you don't feel fulfilled and content, no amount of money is going to make you feel like that. So as long as you're aware of where the source of that comes in, kind of like, you can choose to eat a Mars bar as long as you know that eating that Mars bar is not going to fulfill you like eating, a sushi or a good meal. A good meal fills you up and nourishes you. A Mars bar, well, it's great. I love it, but it's not going to fill me up with the same amount of nourishment. That gives me some sugar high and it's nice and it's lovely to have, and that one nourishes me and feeds me. So as long as you're aware of what does what to you, like what things you pursue and their impact on your life, then great. It's when you mix them both, when you treat a Mars bar like a nourishing meal, that's when the problem happens.
Wow. Wow. That was absolutely powerful, Hussein. Absolutely powerful. Oh, oh, okay. I wish we would have more time, but if our listeners they would like to connect with you and get a hold of your book, what would be the best way?
Thank you for the question and thank you for having me and the great questions that you've asked. I would say The Dark Art of Life Mastery is available on Amazon, available on Barnes and Noble, wherever you want to get it. And you can find me at HusseinHallak.com or search Hussein Hallak on Google. I'm probably the only person as known with that name. There is somebody else. There are some other people with the name, but very few. So search Hussein Hallak or go HusseinHallak.com or The Dark Art of Life Mastery. And thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Hussein. And I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And I'm so thankful to you for cutting through the noise and really showing us that clarity and courage, they aren't abstract ideals. They are daily practices, especially when the ground beneath you is shifting. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sana. I appreciate you.
To all the listeners out there, you know what? Uncertainty is not the enemy, it is the landscape. Your job is to navigate it with intention, protect your mental space, and build a life that's as meaningful as it is successful for you, to you. And to connect with Hussein and explore his work, including his new book, just refer to the show notes along with this episode. And until then, this is BizBlend, and I'm your host, Sana, reminding you that courage isn't about not being afraid. It is about deciding what matters more than fear. Thank you.